So we'll have a chat with Melissa. We'll talk about the Minimalist, the podcast, and the Capsule wardrobe. Number of question areas. We'll probably go off into some weird areas, doubtless, knowing you.
Maybe.
And then we'll have a bit of a chat about things, and then at the end of it, chance for you guys to ask any questions. So whether it's about finding your own personal style, decluttering your wardrobe, your own style icons, building a capsule wardrobe, minimalism, anything at all. You'll answer any question?
Yeah.
Give or take.
Okay.
Alright, so Melissa is the presenter of the Mindfulness podcast. She presents that alongside Jessica Lynn Williams from Chicago, Illinois. Sponsored by the Minimalists themselves. The show has grown hugely since its launch a few years ago, and it's just started its third season.
Yep.
Hailing from Sunderland, she got a degree in English literature and fashion journalism from the city's university, where she cultivated her interest in style, culture and writing. While her journey into minimalism started over 2 years ago, her likes and dislikes weren't influenced by what everyone else was doing from a very early age. Highlighted even now at family get-togethers where her long-standing wacky dress sense and attitude to fashion as a child remains a hot topic of conversation. Never occurring to her to fit in when she was a young kid, she nevertheless, like most of us, spent most of her late teens and early 20s trying to fit in, but as she grew older, she realised something wasn't right. Using consumerism as a crutch, she felt like a fraud. This is personal, isn't it?
I know.
Until one lucky day she came across the Minimalist's website. Now the co-creator and co-presenter of the Mind Palace podcast, which has evolved over time from a focus on living a well-curated life to an eclectic mix of topics, with the cornerstone being that the greatest adventure is simply a conversation. Melissa inspires tens of thousands of people across the world to live intentionally and, like her, embrace what really matters. So, ladies and gentlemen, Melissa Kane.
Thanks.
You've ever been clapped.
Nice.
Plenty more where that came from. Thinking about how you got here before this group of people today.
Yeah.
Dialing back to when you first found out about the Minimalists website and discovered this kind of brave new world, could you just tell us a bit about your journey towards a minimalist life, your discovery of minimalism,
Yeah,
and how that started?
Yeah, so I was at a point where I just finished university. I was working in retail and I hated it, and I really love Pinterest, so I was going through Pinterest and I'd seen the cover of their book quite a few times. It's pictures, and I'd saw their picture, and one time I just thought, you know what it is, I'm just going to click on it. So I clicked on it. It took me to the blog, and it was just the perfect time for me because I was really dissatisfied. I knew I didn't want to work in retail. I was living up in the north, which, as probably most people up here know, there's not like a wide array of jobs for you to take. So I knew that I didn't just want to go into a 9-to-5 job that I hated, doing something that I didn't like. I wanted to do something that I enjoyed, and I knew that I didn't want to just do it for the paycheck. I wanted that freedom to be able to choose what I wanted to do. So I went onto their blog and I think I just devoured it. I spent hours reading through all their posts, and it really resonated with me. It was a total like light bulb moment where I just thought, of course, you know, I don't have to do what everyone else does. I don't have to go out and buy all this stuff. I don't have to be constantly on that treadmill, because that just wasn't what I wanted to do. So I'm like an all-in person. So as soon as I like finished, I thought, right, okay, like I'm dealing with I was living at home at the time, so I only had my room to deal with, and I thought, right, I'm doing this right now. So I got loads of black bin bags, and I was really surprised. I was thinking in preparation for this talk, underneath my bed, I used to have, I don't even know what. I know that I couldn't ever get underneath my bed because there was boxes and things. And if you ask me right now what was in any of those boxes, I could not tell you. I don't know what I'd kept underneath there, and it made me realise all this stuff that I'd held on to, stuff that was broken, stuff that I didn't even really like, you know, and you hold on to all these things, and I realised how much all this stuff was holding me back. And I think that one night I threw out just into the bin 4 huge black bin bags of stuff. I had a couple of bags to donate as well, and I took them straight down the charity shop, and that was only like my first go at it. That was my first go at it, and I'd blitzed through my room and gotten rid of loads of stuff, and it was the most like free I'd felt in my whole life. And I just knew that, you know, this was something that I wanted to continue doing. I'm not a very sentimental person, so I was able to get rid of objects and stuff like that quite easily, but one area that I really struggled with was my wardrobe. I'd done fashion and I really love fashion and I love the expression of clothes, but there was a lot of anxiety linked to it for me, and I had 3 wardrobes at the time, and as I was going through them I realised, you know, I couldn't just get rid of stuff. Like, it actually physically hurt to like realise that but you identify yourself so much with the clothes that you are, you know, you present yourself in a certain way, and I really had to face my demons with that. I'd realised how much I'd relied on what I wore to convey who I was, and if I didn't have all that to like put my personality across, then who was I? And that was a really, really scary thought. So I went through all my clothes. I realised that one, all of it was fast fashion. There was none of it that was very good quality. I didn't have hardly any basic pieces. I had no versatile items, and it took me about a year to really go through, identify what I wanted, what I needed, and kind of rebuild from there. But I would say, you know, coming across the Minimalist blog is the most like fundamental thing that's ever happened in my life. I know that I would not be here doing the same thing if it hadn't been because of them.
So how long ago are we talking when you stumbled across it?
I was 21 because I just finished university, so that is, I'm 26 now, so 5 years. 5 years now, yeah.
So similar feelings to everybody, I think, that whole feeling of letting go, the anxiety of letting go, then what the hell you are beyond your stuff. Where did you go beyond that initial like first year of getting rid of everything? What was the next step?
Well, I got on Twitter, and I think I had what most people have in here when they become a minimalist. You want to meet other people who are minimalists as well. So I followed a lot of people who were minimalists, and one of those people was Jessica Lynn Williams, who I do the podcast with, and she emailed me and she just said, look, I know this is a totally crazy idea, but do you want to do a podcast with me? I've never met her before, ever. And I just thought, yeah, you know, why not? I've got nothing to lose, especially because this was, like, I thought it was going to be mainly in America, so I thought no one here is going to listen to it anyway. Like, yeah, I'll do that, no problem. So we had a conversation. It was really nice to connect with someone as well who was also a minimalist, who was the same age as me, who was a woman living the same lifestyle, because I think we get a lot where it's easier for men to be minimalists, and that was something that I came across definitely with my wardrobe. You know, it was very feminine, and I kind of struggled to find that medium. So I thought that we had like a niche, we had a voice, because I know that there's so many other people that age who are probably like us, even younger, even older, who want to live that intentional life. So I'd gotten to the stage where I'd gotten rid of a lot of stuff, but I still hadn't totally faced the idea of, you know, like, what am I without that stuff. So what me and Jess did, our first season, we did a lot of challenges. So we did a challenge to get rid of social media, we did a challenge to get rid of the internet, I think, for a week. I did a challenge where I wore only 2 dresses for a month, and that was really like fundamental for me to move past. I'd like hit a roadblock where I couldn't deal with my wardrobe anymore. I didn't know where I was going wrong, but something wasn't right. And it's uncomfortable to be that person who wears the same thing over and over again. You know, I thought, oh my God, everyone's going to think that I stink and I just wear the same things all the time.
Was that just feedback from listeners?
That was just, yeah, that was just from people who were around me. But it was really nice, you know, no one even noticed. I think that the problem is we focus so much on ourselves and how we're perceived, and I had to, you have to up your game. You know, I used to really thrive off people saying, oh, you know, that's a lovely top that you wear, and I really like that dress that you wear, and then I used to take that as a compliment about me, but it wasn't. That was about the clothes I was wearing. And when you take that away, you know, you have to think about who you are, and I really had to like face that. I had to look that in the face, and do you know what it is? It was probably one of the most empowering things that I've done, like knowing that I could wear them 2 dresses and that like I didn't have to convey myself through my clothes. I could wear stuff that I was comfortable in, that fit me well, and you regain so much like peace of mind. I think I did another challenge where I challenged myself to get ready in 15 minutes on a morning, because I was just sick of standing in front of my wardrobe like, oh, I don't know what to wear, and putting something on and then changing, and then I didn't want to do that to myself. You know, I thought that for all of us, there's so many more areas of ourselves that we don't always cultivate. And I thought, you know, I'm spending so much time on this one area, and not that, you know, wanting to look good and wanting to express yourself with what you're wearing is a bad thing, but I knew that I wanted like a time scale on that. I wanted to be able to get ready and get out of the house in 15 minutes on a morning. You know, I wanted to be able to do that and then not think about it again. Because before then, I think every day I used to leave the house and something wasn't quite right. You know, I never quite felt confident. But then when you've got high standards of the things in your life, which I think you end up having to have because you're a minimalist, so you don't have a lot of stuff. When you've got those high standards, you know, you do feel a lot better when you walk out the house. When as soon as you get rid of all that superfluous stuff, it's really, really empowering, and it makes you think that, you know, you can be more and you can show more of yourself without relying on these just needless things.
So you took a bit of a bold move to live your journey to minimalism completely in public and doing these challenges. So that was going through the first season of your show, doing all this and gradually, you know, curating your own life. What was it like, I mean, you know, dealing with it kind of personally and becoming more minimalist, but also dealing with the growth of the show across that first year? What did that look like in terms of who was listening, how many were listening, and how did that evolve over time?
Do you know what, we have never really looked at stats. That's not why we do the show.
You told me how many.
We did. No, but only because it terrified me. So we've never, when we first did the show, we put it out there, and it's strange because neither of us like have this desire to like be well known or anything. We did it because we thought we had something to say. We thought people would get value from it, so we just put it out there. And honestly, we don't like look at the stats every time we put out an episode. So that first series, we've never been influenced by whether people listen or don't listen. So we knew that through our social media and stuff, people would message us and say, "Oh, we're getting a lot out of, you know, your show. Thank you very much." And that was enough for me. I'm not bothered about how many people listen as long as like somebody gets something from it. And me and Jess really enjoy what we do. Like we really enjoy having those conversations. So we've never looked at stats or anything. So I think, but it's given us that freedom because we. You know, you're saying doing it so publicly, but sometimes you need that accountability though. Like, you can be your own worst enemy where you think, you know, I'm going to do this, but then you think, nah, actually, I'm just going to go back to wearing my other clothes because this feels uncomfortable. Because the thing is, like, change and growth does feel uncomfortable. I always say that, you know, coming across the Minimalist blog was one of the best things that happened to me, but that's not to say that it's been without any pain or discomfort. Like, you do have to go through that and you end up better and happier after it, but initially it's rough, it hurts, and it was nice to have Jess there especially to, you know, both kind of challenged each other and pushed each other on, and it's turned into something great which I'm proud of, but you know, we just did it based on what we thought was right at the time.
And so it kicked off because of you finding out about the Minimalists and their website. Then you started this podcast, and at some point the Minimalists themselves come into this. Can you talk about how that happened?
Well, Jess works for the Minimalist. She does the social media for them. But I think it was before this. Because she lives in America, so I think that they'd been doing a meetup or something. So she'd met with him. I think she had a mentoring session with Ryan as well. He does some mentoring sessions. So she'd mentored with him, with Matt, her husband. So they'd met like that, and then it was just at some point Josh kind of said, you know, like, oh, I like the new show, and then Jess told me, and I was like, oh god, that is terrifying that they listen to it. So yeah, they enjoy it, and it was a strange part for us because I'd went out to LA to visit Jess, and we'd sort of discussed what we wanted the next season of the Mind Palace to be. Like, we always like to change things and keep things fresh. We don't want to talk about the same things all the time. And we thought, you know, like, we actually ploughed like a lot of money into the Mind Palace. We'd like bought microphones. This was at the beginning. We bought microphones and we paid for all the blueberry and stuff like that. And Jess had said, you know what, like, maybe we'd say to the Minimalist, would you want to sponsor us, and we'll plug you guys on the show. And that was really uncomfortable for us because we've never saw it as being like a business venture or anything, but they're the perfect accompaniment to us because their message links with our message. So it was just a great partnership, but it was definitely terrifying when I heard that they listened. I had to block that out to the back of my brain before recording the next time.
So sponsored by the Minimalists now then? You don't do any
Yes.
of that ads or anything like that, and
No.
it's just completely, that's it, the income from them?
Yep.
You talked about how it changed over time as well. So you started off with the kind of the challenges and the back and forth, then you've been through, you're on your 3rd season now. Can you talk about how it's developed and kind of why it changed as well? Why the change in focus from minimalism to what it's become?
So the first season was very much doing challenges, which we needed at the time, and I think that if you first getting into minimalism, those are probably the shows to go for. But then we got to a stage where when you do that many challenges, it wasn't really sustainable. So we were learning a lot, but we weren't able to apply anything that we'd learned. So we found that we were like kind of dipping back into bad habits and stuff. So we thought, do the challenges over a month and make them longer, so they're a bit more sustainable. But then that didn't really work for the show, because obviously you don't just want to be putting out 1 episode a month. So we decided to just do it like conversation based. I think that most people who listen to the show like the fact that it's like kind of candid and it's just me and Jess talking. So we thought, why don't we open it up a little bit and we'll just see what topics we can discuss and what topics link with minimalism, and just living a well curated life. So we kind of got a little bit more into like mindfulness and reading books and discussing stuff like that. But last year we took a break, and we'd gotten to the stage where both like to be challenged, and we'd already discussed all these topics, and we thought, what are we going to discuss from now on? We don't want to hash out these same topics because there's no point. We need to keep it fresh and exciting for us as well. We thought we might lose some listeners through it, but that's okay because we have to do what we think's right. So we decided to kind of branch out, and it's really exciting because this season we're talking about artificial intelligence and where language comes from, and we just had one go out about free speech and beauty, and we've just like opened it up a lot more. Like we need to stay interested in our topics as well. And the thing is, like, minimalism is a really important part of my life, but it's not something that I necessarily discuss anymore as much because it's just a part of who I am. It's like discussing the fact that I have brown hair. At some point it just becomes a part of who you are. So we had to keep it fresh, I guess, for us.
So I think that's important to reflect on as well, because we always talk about how we can't just keep talking about decluttering in this room. So it will change over time. I think for many people it does just become every day, really. You don't think of yourself as a minimalist. I guess the way people who go vegan or vegetarian don't think of themselves as that. After a while it's just what you eat. And I think it's interesting seeing the show develop like that over time as well. But dialing it back right to the start, when you're in the midst of this kind of existential horror as you're throwing away your clothes and shedding your personality. I think that's a big thing a lot of people have to face, is decluttering clothes, and like how the hell you even start, because decluttering crap that's in your garage is one thing, but clothes is so personal and it defines you. Can you talk about how you even began to start on that, and maybe things that other people could use to help themselves do that?
Definitely. And I can talk about this because I did it wrong. Well, from my personal perspective, I'd went at my wardrobe the same way that I went at the stuff, just in my bedroom, like the ornaments, but I didn't realise what emotional attachment I had to my clothes. And I was going through them and thinking, do I want to get rid of this? And for me, that was just the wrong way to go about it. What I had to identify was the things that I want to keep. I think Ryan did a packing party when he first became a minimalist. So what he did was he packed up all of his stuff and left it in boxes. And then over the course of a few days, there were certain things that he had to unpack, like his toothbrush and a different shirt and underwear and things like that. And I thought, that's what I'm going to do for my clothes. I'm going to pack them all away. It's too hard to go through each thing individually and think, do I want to get rid of it? Because I can rationalise until the end of time about why I want to keep something, but that's not a good enough reason to keep it. So I thought, right, I'm going to bag everything up. So I did that, and that was a really, really great experiment. So I got a few clothes back out of that, but that still wasn't right for me. And I think that one of the most fundamental things that happened to me was I came across a blog by a woman called Nadia Ekbal, and she wore the same outfit for a year. A full year she wore the same pair of jeans and the same top. And I thought, I need a uniform. I need that outfit. I need that one outfit that when I don't have anything else that I want to wear, that I just want to get up and I want to throw it on and I want to feel confident. I want it to fit well. I want it to convey who I am as well at the same time. So I went about, I had a look on Pinterest, I had a look at various websites of the different ideas I could get for what that outfit would look like for me. And I think that was the most important thing that I did. I think that you've got to identify what your uniform is, whether it's a pair of jeans and a top, whether it's black trousers and a shirt, whether it's a dress, whatever it is, you have to identify that one item and then build your wardrobe around that item. So I think for me that was probably the best way to go about it, because if you're like me and you are wrapped up in all the reasons why you should keep all these things, you're surprised when you bag them all up and you can't even remember the majority of the things that you've got in there. I think that you have to look at yourself with fresh eyes, and think like, what do I want to convey? Do I want to be standing around all morning thinking, what am I going to wear, or do I deserve a little bit more than that? Like, can I be confident enough to wear the same thing for a year? Like, can I own my uniform? Because if you can do that, then you're onto a winning streak, because anything else that gets added in is added in because you want it there, because there's nothing wrong with having patterned pieces, with having your statement items. I've still got those in my wardrobe, but those are the things that I've added in afterwards, and those tend to be the things that I try and pick up second hand if I don't have them brand new. I try to look at how much wear I'm going to get out of things as well. Like, you have to be realistic about what these clothes mean to you, what events you can use them in, how versatile they are in your wardrobe.
You touched on something there around like having to pick what you're wearing every morning. You did that challenge a while back as well, the 15-minute challenge.
Yep.
And people call that, that idea of decision fatigue, like having to make. What do you think of that? Do you think that's a genuine issue for people?
Massively. If you, whatever it is, I mean, you could even just choose like 10 items. You have to like limit your decisions on a morning, because I used to spend so much time just stood in front of my wardrobe, just like looking and thinking, I don't even know what to wear. I don't even know how to go about putting an outfit together, because none of my items were basic. I couldn't have just thrown two things together. I would have looked crazy walking out in the streets like that. Everything had like another set thing that it had to be worn with, and I thought, I don't want that in my life. I want something better. I think decision fatigue it's definitely a huge thing. Like, if any of you want to minimize your wardrobe, try that. Just try it for a week and you will be amazed at how much time you reclaim, how much better you feel about yourself. Like, it's just incredible.
What do you think is the best thing to do with all the clothes?
Donate. Well, it depends, because I donated all of my clothes, but I never went through the stuff that was broken and ripped places. You can recycle those clothes. I think is it Enviro clothing?
Yeah, there's something called Enviro. Oh, I think it might be Enviro clothes. Yeah, you take your clothes and they do it by weight essentially. Yeah. So they weigh it and just they give you. I mean, it's not much.
You don't get much money. I think I donated mine to charity, but it's still a better way to go about it, because I mean, at the time I didn't think much about the waste that I was putting out there, and it's kind of uncomfortable me now to think, all those clothes that I'd gotten rid of. It's really uncomfortable to look at all that money that you've spent and know that it probably wasn't really spent in the right place. Like, that's a really hard truth that you've got to come to terms with at some point. But yeah, I donated most of my clothes, and the rest of it, now at least, I try and recycle.
So thinking about, like, because everyone in the room could approach their wardrobe the same way, but then everyone's got like a different lifestyle as well. Completely, we work different. We do different things in our outside of work lives. Can you talk, because you've did a kind of wardrobe consultancy for people, so people come to you and find out how to create a capsule wardrobe and curate their own style. Can you talk about the decisions that people should think about when they're trying to create or maintain a wardrobe that functions for their own lifestyle?
Yeah, definitely. And that's something why I started it, was because I think it's not as simple as going on Pinterest and saying, this is a capsule wardrobe and this is what you need. You need one blazer and 2 white shirts and 1 pair of jeans and 1 black skirt, because that doesn't work for everyone. That's not the way that things should be. I think that you should still be able to express yourself, and you do have to take into account what your job is. Be realistic about what you're going to wear there, whether you've got a uniform or whether you want your own area of your wardrobe that is set for work, or whether you want it to mix in with your other items. and really like condensing it down just to those essentials. But I think that what's really fascinating is if you bag up all your items and you only pick out the items that you think of that you want to wear, what you have to do is identify the reasons why you like it. You know, what do you like about it? Is it the fit? Is it the pattern? Is it the colour? Because you need to learn from your favourite items. You know, like maybe you've got a top that is the right fit, but you don't really like the pattern. Now you know when you move forward that, okay, so I want these colours in my wardrobe. These are the fits that really suit me. These are the clothes that I get the most wear out of. You know, it's no good having 10 skirts in your wardrobe if you wear trousers every day to work and you've only got one pair of trousers. You have to be realistic about what is going to work in your wardrobe. But yeah, taking that time to get to know where you've went wrong as well, and just kind of identifying out of your favourite items what are the ones that work best, and can they just go straight into your capsule wardrobe, or is it something that you need to look for is like that item and that can fill that item's space in your wardrobe.
I think hearing back from people, some people get stuck, you know, when they start decluttering the wardrobe and think, I can't buy anything else. Like, I can't until this is down to the perfect amount of stuff. At what point do you think people should be able to feel comfortable to go shopping? Like, when do you think, right, I need to go to the shops?
When something wears out. Like, that's a good stage that you want to get to, where your capsule wardrobe is pretty much ready. I mean, there's still certain items that I'll add in because everyone wants a little bit of spice in their lives. You know, you don't want to wear the same thing over and over again. And that's why I think second-hand shops, eBay is a great way to, you know, pick up a few things relatively cheaply, not contribute to any more waste in the world, and to like make your wardrobe a little bit more exciting. But there's plenty of things that you can do. I really like the idea of going out and buying second-hand clothes, but I think that it's taking the time to get to know yourself, who you are in your clothes, and how you want to be portrayed into the world.
And how do you think, because there's so many influences on people as to how to dress, and like whether it's just from peers or whether it's from shops telling you what's new this week and how you should dress. Like, how did you find your own personal style?
A lot of trying things on. I think you have to like look online, and you know, like celebrities are a great way to just like have a look through anyone who you admire and pick out, you know, what you like about their style and if that would work for you as well. Because you know, there's plenty of times when I've thought, I really like that, like I really like those trousers, but then you try them on yourself and you think, this just doesn't work. You have to like know your body really, really well. But I think you've got to do like a lot of experimenting and trying stuff on and just seeing what works. I think there does come to a point where you have to do a little. If you're like me and you didn't have a lot of basics in your wardrobe, you're gonna have to pick up a certain couple of things. I think that if you can get your like that uniform in your head, that go-to whatever it is outfit, then building it up around that is a lot easier. But I mean, there's a lot of things you've got to take into consideration. I'm very into like ethical fashion and sustainability and trying to make sure that, you know, we're not creating a horrible world for us to bring up our kids into, because, you know, the fashion industry is polluted in a lot of ways. And it was really hard for me to meld those two things together, because I used to be so into fashion. But I think that, you know, as soon as you're a minimalist, like the less you shop, the better. Like if you're just at the stage where you're barely shopping, where you're just buying stuff when you need it, then you're in a much better position than other people. I think you really have to take into consideration the longevity of the items that you're buying. You know, who's making those items? What are the brand like? Like, how long is this going to last you? What are you going to do with it afterwards? Those are all important questions to ask when you go shopping.
I definitely want to come back to ethical clothing and fast fashion, because I think there's a minefield we can get into there. But dialing back to the style thing, so we got talking about who's influenced you and who your style icons are, and you picked 3 of them. And I think they're not just style icons, like lifestyle icons as well.
Yeah.
So we want to go through them.
Yeah, go for it.
Your first one.
So that one's Nadia Ekbal. So that is the jeans and the top. That's the top that she wore for a full year. She had that scarf, and I think she had another like cardigan or a hoodie thing as well for when it got colder. So that's what she wore for an entire year. And that, like, reading her blog, that was just, I think I sent you the link. I'll put the link on the Facebook group, because it's a really inspiring blog. It was great.
It talks about how few people actually noticed as
yeah,
well.
Yeah. And
it's actually bizarre, isn't it? You'd think, you know, maybe it's a couple of weeks or a couple of months even, but it was like
Because nobody really notices.
Yeah.
You know, nobody really cares. I think you care more than other people care about what you're wearing. As long as you look presentable to other people, they're not bothered.
Oh, that's what change your mind.
Well, yeah, but then that's all right. And this is Matilda Kerr. So she's an art director, and this is her work uniform. So basically, I think she had one morning where she got up and she was late for a meeting and she got ready and she just felt really crappy about what she was wearing. She didn't like it at all. She had a wardrobe full of stuff and she felt like she did this way too often. So every single day she would wake up and have that stress of, what do I wear? What do I wear? So what she did was she went out and she bought a few of them tops and a few of them pants, and that's what she's worn every single day to work. So she has a different wardrobe for the weekends and stuff. But she said, you know, like the decision fatigue, like her job was really like high maintenance. She had a lot to do and she didn't want to spend her time thinking about what she was wearing, and nobody noticed. Like, it's incredible. She was so much more empowered just by choosing that uniform.
So this is becoming a bit of a thing now, isn't it? There seems to be more and more people doing this. So do you think it is just because of the decision fatigue, or are they trying to prove a point? What do you think's at the heart of it? Are they just stepping off the wheel, you know?
Do you know what it is? It's not even just people like this. I was having to think about my style icons, but most people who work in fashion. So you've got Vera Wang. She always wears black leggings and a black top, always, and she has one of the best design shops in the world. There's Michael Kors. He always wears the same sort of clothing. Anna Wintour wears the same sort of dress and sunglasses and statement necklace. So even Donald Trump, Barack Obama always says that he only wore the same two versions of the suit. So he either wore a navy one or he wore a grey one. You've got Mark Zuckerberg, who is the CEO of Facebook, who he only wears the same grey t-shirt and pair of pants.
You've got the Minimalists themselves.
The Minimalists. Yeah. You've got Steve Jobs. He had a uniform. I think these people have just... But what the point I was trying to make was, some of these people work in fashion. You know, it's not a case of you having to decide, well, I'm a minimalist, so I can't be interested in fashion anymore. You can own your uniform. You know, you can still be creative with it. You can still be interested in fashion. It's not a case of having to sacrifice that part of yourself. There's plenty of people who do it who aren't just minimalists. And actually, when I came to think about it, you know, most of the people who I'm most inspired by are the people who have that uniform. You know, they have that set look. It's you look at them and you know who they are, and I think that's very reassuring for a lot of people.
There's something interesting as well. It kind of renders somebody iconic, doesn't it? It's like when you think about Steve Jobs, you see that black turtleneck and the shoes, don't you? It's kind of you know, it's a bit iconoclastic to do this, and then that is your look.
It is.
So we have another one.
Yes, and this is Lauren Singer. She runs a blog called Trashes for Tosses. So it's a zero waste blog. She buys all of her clothes second hand. So she lives this totally zero waste lifestyle. I mean, she's in New York, so she probably has better access to some stuff that we can't.
And it is zero. She's like
zero waste. Yes,
jar,
yeah. It's like one mason jar. I think she's been doing this now for about 3 or 4 years, and she's still got this one mason jar full of waste. Those are the only things. You know, she really takes into consideration the full life cycle of the things that you're buying. And what was really interesting to me is, you know, I think there's sometimes a stigma attached to secondhand clothing or buying stuff off eBay, but it's a really, really great way to do things. If you can buy secondhand, why not? I mean, it's not sustainable all the time. I don't think it's sustainable not to buy fast fashion all the time. You know, you have to be realistic about what's available to you and what suits you. But even just adding certain bits in from second hand can be amazing, and people like her prove that it can exist. You know, that lifestyle can happen. You might not get it to her level with only one mason jar full of stuff, but it's important to ask ourselves why we're doing this and how we can walk a little bit lighter on the earth.
So you talked about how you used to have a wardrobe full of fast fashion. What's your opinion on it now? What's your opinion on it for yourself, and what's your opinion on it generally in terms of it's a lot of cheap clothing available to a lot of people?
Do you know what it is? Fast fashion isn't evil, although some of the companies probably come across that way. I was totally naive. It wasn't a case of me wanting to participate in something evil. It was just a case of I didn't even ask the question. I didn't think who made me top. I didn't even think about that until a few years into being a minimalist when I came across this website. I don't think that those people are evil. I think that we just have to be a little bit more mindful of what we're participating in, because we don't know all the times. We don't know what these companies are up to. We don't know who is made our top, and that's a question that we should be asking. If we want a fair and more sustainable world, we have to ask those questions. Like, we don't have a choice. We have to take that responsibility. But I think that fast fashion filled a gap at the time. It's crazy because we've ended up earning more but spending less on clothes. Like, clothes now, you don't even have to really spend that much on things. You can walk into Primark and get a top for £3. And I used to do that and never even think, maybe this might be unethical. But as soon as you start thinking about it that way, you're like, well, of course, of course, someone, yeah, exactly. But yeah, I mean, I think it's hard living up in the northeast, because I try clothes on before I buy anything, and there's no ethical retailers that I'm aware of up here at the minute. So I end up buying the majority of my stuff online when needed. But there's going to be times where you can't escape fast fashion. I think that if you're buying less, you're already sending a message out there. You're already saying, I don't want to buy clothes all the time. Like, I want different, I want quality, like, I want fairness. There's going to be some times when you can't escape it, but I think that if the majority of the time you can make those good decisions and, just be aware a little bit more of what's involved in the clothes that you're wearing, then, like, that's only positive. But I think, like, the majority of the people in this room, like, the majority of people would want to know those answers. They don't want to participate in something like that.
And so we've got Lauren Singer at one end of the scale, like, completely, it's not an unattainable lifestyle for people, but it's it's pretty extreme living. But it feels like people are gradually moving that way. We talked earlier about how I think it's Debenhams have identified that, like, people just aren't buying as much stuff, and more people are becoming aware of where the things are from, or even if they're not aware of it, they're starting to question, like, where is this from? Why is it so cheap? What do you think the kind of this is a big one, the consequences are for society generally if we if people broadly start continuing to move in this direction where we don't buy fast fashion, or we don't go for the cheap and easy option, we spend less, we consume less?
I think it's quite interesting because, like you say, I think it's already happening. What's quite scary is advertisers know about it and companies know about it, and now they're trying to sell that to you. I think it's just part and parcel of living in today's society. I think that I don't know about most of you, but I don't really enjoy shopping anymore. It's not an experience that I particularly enjoy. I hate walking into any shop because the majority of it is stuff that is not really very wearable. I think that I would like to think, in the future, I would like to see a lot more ethical retailers up here. I think that they would do really, really well. But the problem is, though, people, and I'm in that category as well, it's hard to spend the money on ethical fashion that needs to be spent, because there's so many people involved in this. If you want a fair wage for everyone, you have to be prepared to dig a little bit deeper into your pocket. But I think, being a minimalist and buying less clothes, you can afford a little bit more to think, right, okay, so I'm not going to go out and buy 10 of these fast fashion tops. I'm going to put all that money into this one area and support this retailer who supports all these people. There's a really great blog called Sustainably Chic, run by one of my friends called Natalie, and she works alongside all these ethical retailers. And if you're interested in looking at any ethical fashion, then she is like a really great first point of call, because the thing is, they don't get advertised very well. You're not going to see them on the TV, you're not going to hear about them on the radio. You have to go out and do your own digging, so to speak. But you vote every time you go out and spend money, you know what I mean? So you can choose where to spend that money, you can choose what you promote. But there is like another area of that, though, because I think people think ethical fashion, that means I can go out and buy what I want because it's ethical. I'm supporting women in Africa, which is great, but whatever you buy is going to have an impact on the world, unless it's like second hand and it's bought next door. It's going to have an impact, and that's not to put you off, because there's a certain amount of consuming that we're going to do as humans anyway. Like, we can't help that, but being aware of that, you know what I mean, and even if it's ethical, still trying to limit how much you're buying is important.
So really not just dig a little deeper, just buy a lot less.
Yeah.
And do you think there's a bit of a stigma with ethical clothing as well?
Yes, I think so. Yeah, I think it's kind of hippie, you know what I mean? Like, and to be honest, I think some ethical fashion retailers don't do themselves justice. Because that's the thing, you know, being a minimalist, it's not just that I'm looking for something to be ethical, but I also want to really like it. And the problem is that they still aren't filling the gap for me sometimes in the basic items that I need. You know, it's still like seasonal fashion, so it's still going to change, which is something that I want to opt out of a little bit more. So you've got certain brands like Everlane, which is really great. They do some really great basic pieces. People Tree is based in London, so that's one in this country, and they do some really great pieces. But I still think there's a lot of work to be done in ethical fashion, to be honest. But we need to support it before it can get off the ground, before they can bring out, you know, more diversity in the clothes that they're bringing out.
Well, this is the thing, that idea of voting with our feet is really important, because if we all did it, I mean, ultimately, Next will sell us whatever we want to buy. If we all demand these ethically traded t-shirts, that is all they'll stock. I think there's a power in buying stuff, and I wonder whether that power, people feel like they don't have that power. You know, they it's quite a passive thing to walk along a high street or into a shopping centre.
Yeah, that's what's quite scary, because I was reading an article about it, and it was about this woman. She's called Lucy Siegel, and she writes a really great book on like the demon that is fast fashion. And she says, you know, like when she goes into a shop, she'll say, "Who made this? Like, where was it made? What materials used? Like, how have you created this material?" And I used to work in a shop, and I can tell you, I could not give people answers to that. And that's what's quite scary, because even the people who work in those shops, you know, they don't know where it's been made, who made it. But these are the questions that we need to start asking. You know, if we all asked and said, you know, who's made this? I want to know. Like, I want to know what factory. I want to know what their ethical practices are, how they look after the people who are making these clothes. And together we have a really, really big voice. If enough people ask, then, like you say, they'll listen. It's just a question of doing the asking.
So minimalism can just change the world.
Of course it can. I think so.
Ladies and gentlemen, Melissa Kane. Alright, so she'll answer literally any question about
within
anything.
reason.
Within no reason. Anybody got anything they'd like to ask? Fashion, minimalism, anything at all?
So do you find that you have a wardrobe that's organised in as much as you've got certain items together, which makes sense? Like when I was in my very early 20s, it was all the thing to do was to have all of your skirts together, all of your tops together, but colour code them. So you started off, say, red, green, blue, for instance, and then you'd have your tops red, green, blue. So everything was organised in as much as they had a place in your wardrobe where they always were, and they were next to each other, so that when you did open your doors, you could see at a glance what you had, and you could pick that red, you know, sort of skirt there with that cream top there. And you knew they would match, because that's what you had in your wardrobe, everything matched, but they were compartmentalised, so it was quicker to pick from them.
Yeah, I definitely think that's a really, really good way of doing things, because that was one thing that when I looked at my three wardrobes, is that there was absolutely no colour combination at all. There was no, it wasn't like systematic at all. Everything was just a mix of like patterns and prints and colours, and it was too much for me. And I think that, you know, definitely like sorting them out into how many skirts you've got, how many tops you've got, being realistic about what you need, you know, because as much as I was inspired by Nadia Ekbal, I don't want to wear the same jeans and t-shirt for a year, but building it around those things. And I always say to people, you know, try and choose like 6 colours, whatever colours they are. There can be any colours that you want, but you have to choose colours that are going to complement each other. And I think that you've got to take into account your wardrobe as a whole. Like now when I go shopping, it's a nightmare because I ask myself that many questions about what I'm buying and why I'm buying it and how it's going to fit into my wardrobe as a whole. I don't mindlessly buy anymore. I don't just walk into a shop and pick something up and leave with it, because there's a difference between liking something and liking something on you and how you feel in it. But I just want to say as well, a really great resource is Project 333. If you are still at the stage where you've got way too many clothes, that's a really great way just to really quickly like reduce your clothes down and to see how you can be a little bit more creative with less clothes, because you can. There's so many different outfits that you can put together. I've had to be more creative because I've got less clothing, whereas the more I had, I felt I was just less creative. I felt I was held back a lot by it. But yeah, Project 333 is a really, really great like first step.
I think it was quite interesting when you showed the black and white, the person that had chosen the black and white.
Yeah.
Because I think we do things like that quite naturally anyway. Like I do. That's my classic. Get up in the morning. I need to be ready quickly. What am I going to wear? It's going to be black and white with a pizzazz of red.
Yeah.
In there. And I know if I'm in a rush, that will always be black trousers is going to be my fallback position, and probably a black and white top or something like that. So I can see how that would work very, very easily for me because I'm halfway there. But occasionally I like to have a big colour.
Yeah, of course.
As well. So I thought that was quite useful because when I looked at that, I thought, yeah, that's my classic uniform is black and white.
Yeah.
Usually with a bit red in somewhere. Like, even if it's just a bangle.
Yeah, a little bit of spice, why not? That's the thing, I think that, you know, even before you've whittled down your wardrobe, you tend to wear the same things over and over again. I know I was anyway, you know, it wasn't a case of this was like brand new information. I was wearing the same things, I just had like 3 wardrobes full of spare clothes that I didn't wear. But like you say, you know, even before you go through stuff, it's just identifying that stuff that you actually do wear and you actually like, you know, this is the stuff that makes you feel good. So why not, instead of having 3 wardrobes of stuff that, you know, you're like, it's okay, why not have wardrobes of stuff where you think, yeah, you know, I can wear that. Having like a smaller wardrobe with more concise items I think is probably better.
So would you be happy with accessories as well then?
Oh yes, yeah.
So accessorise to make a change rather than different top, different trousers, just different accessories.
Yeah,
To go with you.
and what's great about accessories is you can pick them up really, really easily in like second-hand places or swap them with like your girlfriends or guys, you know, with your other guys. Like you can it's a lot easier to swap items like that because then you're not worried about the size of it and how it fits and stuff. You know, it's easy to buy a nice scarf and jazz up your look without hardly doing anything or without hardly having to spend any money either.
That's the thing about looking at her. I feel like with a couple of different accessories, she could kind of wear that nearly anywhere.
It's very versatile.
Yeah.
What about, like for me, I've got some items that I just can't justify checking out, but I hardly wear them, but I love them. But they still take up space. So
There's a brilliant like Venn diagram. You're right in the middle.
Like, basically, health is in the middle. So, what would you say to me, who's got a really ridiculous wardrobe, many wardrobes now, because I'm taking over that whole who've got items that I don't wear them often, but I can't justify chucking them out. I don't know what to do.
Why can you not justify checking them out? What's your wall?
They still fit, and when I wear them, I really love them. But I just don't wear them that often.
Do you know what it is though? I think like we'll get bogged down too much in how many items you've got and how many wardrobes you've got. I was using that just as an example. It doesn't matter. What matters is like how you feel about the number of items you've got. You know, if you really feel like you're not at that right stage yet and you do want to whittle down a little bit more, then I think that you literally the pain that you think that you're going to feel by getting rid of them, it doesn't mean anything. Like, it's not that bad. As soon as those are out of your house, you don't feel it that much. Like, you scare yourself because, you know, the pain of just thinking about getting rid of it is so much worse than just actually doing it. But, you know, like, don't feel bad about how many wardrobes you got. That's not what it's about. Like, what it's about is how you feel in it. And I mean, I still have clothes that I don't wear on a daily basis, you know, because you've got like night out stuff and stuff that you would wear for occasions. You know, I don't think you should just get rid of that stuff. But I've got less of that stuff now, you know what I mean? Even those items are a little bit more versatile than the items that I used to go for. But, you know, like, I would say if there's anything that you're even questioning, put it in a bag and just, like, tell Lee to hide it somewhere. You know what I mean? And just, like, see how you go. See how you go without it for, like, a month, 2 months, 3 months. You know, you'll get to the stage where you'll identify whether you actually want it or whether, you know, you just don't need it.
Yeah.
That's an interesting thing. A lot of people have that experience, or at least a lot of people say they have that experience where they chucked out that thing that they thought they could never chuck out, and then they just never thought about it ever again.
Yeah, I think Josh did that with a pair of his jeans. He had his favourite pair of jeans and he thought, I'm just going to get rid of these. Like, I should not be ploughing that much emotion into this inanimate object. Because, I mean, it is, and it's scary how attached we get. I mean, I still have that now with the clothes that I've got. But, You've got to
should
know
anyone care that much about jeans?
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
probably not. Like, it doesn't matter, you're still you. It doesn't matter about the clothes that you put on.
You know, when they say if you've had something for more than 2 years and you haven't worn it, then you can throw it out.
Mm-hmm.
I've got stuff on my wardrobe I've had for 20 odd years.
But now
And
I'm
that's-
wearing them.
And now she wears them. You know, should there be a time limit on things?
Do you know what it is? I don't
It's a hard
like...
and fast rule that. Should we stick to that?
I don't, but I don't particularly like rules. I think that it's all about, like, you as a person. I think that, you know, like, when I went through my wardrobe, I surprised myself in liking stuff that I hadn't wore in a hell of a long time. It was weird because I'd kept stuff for best. So I really liked it, but I never wore it because it was too nice,
Yes.
which is just a bizarre way of thinking about things, really, because, you know, like, just how you go out every day should be your favourite stuff. You shouldn't keep your favourite stuff for some invisible event in the future. So I don't agree with rules like that. I think that it's up to you personally. And I would say try stuff on. I read Marie Kondo's book, and it's about when she deals with your wardrobe. It's about, like, trying stuff on and really thinking about how, like, you feel in it and whether it sparks joy for you. Because you could have some stuff in your wardrobe that you haven't worn for ages that you actually try it on and you think, why don't I wear this more often? Like, I do feel really great in this. So no, I don't think so. I think it works in some ways, but in other ways that rule doesn't work.
How long did it take you to get to a point where you were happy with your wardrobe?
Oh, a good couple of years. It really did, and I think at the time, you know, I tried out a few different things. I tried out Project 333, but the problem was that I was dealing with, like, the emotion of it too much. Instead of identifying the things that I wanted to keep, I was trying to sort through it and, like, get rid of stuff, which I just think is the wrong way around to do it, because if you're attached to your clothes, you're never going to get to that stage where you think, I just want to get rid of this. Like, you have to, like, sever that cord yourself, you know, you have to, like, challenge yourself to do that, but it takes time. Like, I don't think you have to feel bad about the fact that it does, and for most people their wardrobe is the hardest part, and it's constantly going to change. You know, you wear stuff out, your style changes, which is why I think, like, Lauren Singer was really amazing for me, because it showed me that I could, like, update my wardrobe. You know, you can still buy stuff, it's just being mindful about what you're buying, why you're buying it, and whether you actually need it.
What was Project 333?
You pick out 33 items and you wear them for 3 months. So the idea is, you know, if you live in, like, a place like England where there's different weather and stuff, you know, you're going to have seasonal items that you're not going to wear in summer that you're going to wear in winter. So basically the idea is you pick out 33 items and you wear those items for 3 months. So that includes shoes, that includes accessories, and it really makes you identify, like, what your capsule wardrobe could look like. I can't tell you how great it feels to see, like, that capsule wardrobe just full of stuff that you love without all the excess there. Like, just seeing that, like, little wardrobe feels great, and I think that it's nice to have, like, a number, you know what I mean, so you know what you're aiming for, and then afterwards you can go through your clothes and see what you want to get rid of. But it's a really nice way of, like, transitioning your wardrobe as well. So, like, every 3 months you get to look at your clothes anew and, like, see what else you want to put in your wardrobe.
Any other questions from anyone?
Not so much a question, but a comment in my experience of late as well. It's, you know, obviously gone through a downsizing of items of clothes that I've got, but then it's a bit, literally, for me it was an overnight thing about becoming more conscious about what then is brought in. It's like next to, I don't think anything's been purchased for a good few months, because it's just a sudden realisation, isn't it? Well, you just don't need it.
Yeah, I think it's scary. Like, I've never been, like, a one for enjoying going out shopping anyway, so I didn't really have to deal with the financial side so much, you know, because when you look at things, you're like, God, I've spent all this money on this, so, like, that's hard to look at, because then you think, what else could I have spent this money on? You know what I mean? Like, that's a really hard question to answer, and that was something that when I saw, like, bags of my clothes, like, filled up, and especially, you know, when you take it to be recycled and they offer you, like, 50 pence for, like, a bag's worth of clothes.
I've never covered my petrol.
Nah, it just literally, like,
I've got 12 sacks in the spare room.
it just destroys your soul when you realise how much money you've spent on it, which I think puts you off going out and spending any more money, you know, without really thinking it through and thinking, do I actually want this? Do I need this? Because
it does change your future actions, though, doesn't it? That's interesting. Once you get past the whole decluttering thing, you kind of it's just your kind of baseline model.
Yeah.
It does change how you approach everything, doesn't it?
Yeah,
I think
it does.
letting stuff go as well as that. What's it called? The it's the sunk cost fallacy, isn't it? So like you've got stuff and you think, well, I've spent all this money on it, it's worth thousands. It's not
when you take your sacks down.
But people do it with everything, whether it's like a second-hand car and you keep repairing it when really you just need to ditch the thing. But I think that's a big thing because people think it has more value than it really does, whereas the only value I think is what you.
Yeah, it is, and that's what's scary, because as soon as you walk out of a shop, whatever it is you've bought, like how much that's worth now just plummets through the floor. So, you know, I don't buy things now to think, oh, well, I can just sell it after. I used to do that so much. I can sell it after. I can return it if I don't want it. Like, if I decide I don't want it, that never happened. Like, it would just stay there in my wardrobe, unworn. Like, and that's the thing, you know, I think some people try and like sell their clothes after, and I know that I tried to recoup some of my money after. And you don't get that money back, you know what I mean? You have to be really careful about where you're spending your money and what you're spending it on, because you don't want to have those thoughts after. It's not a good feeling to feel like that.
When I went through mine, I had there was 40 items that would be classed as, you know, good quality, almost new, some with still tags on everything. I thought, oh, I'll put it as a bundle on Gumtree, £40, nothing at all. And there was easy £1,500, £2,000 had been spent on those things, and I couldn't even get £40.
Yeah.
For the whole bundle, and I think that was a wake up.
Yeah, it is.
This is like valueless. It's just
that is the market telling you as well. Like it's worth exactly nothing. Yeah.
Amazing.
That's the thing. We've got a pile of clothes. Like half of them is stuff from when I was 18. Stuff that's like good. Go to a charity shop, but I want to get money, but I'm too lazy to kind of go through the eBay process. So it's still sitting there, getting more and more old-fashioned. I think I might just have to.
Where is it, Laura?
Yes, it's in your spare room.
Spare room, kryptonite for a minimalist.
I might just have to bite the bullet and just charity shop it.
The eBay thing's interesting though, isn't it? Because I think a lot of people like experience this where they start they think, oh, I'll put it all on eBay, I'll make a fortune, and then the amount of time and effort it actually takes to do it.
Yeah.
It's a part-time job.
It is.
Yeah. Go down that route.
You'll be getting less than minimum wage for it as well, I guarantee it.
Yeah, and I spoke to a friend about this recently, and I was saying about the experience that I had with Gumtree, not being able to get rid of this like mountain of clothes. And she says, good, she says, Gumtree is like more like a jumble sale where people don't have very high expectations. She said, but with eBay now, people are expecting retail service and
like
retail quality, and if you second-hand item that you'll get returned back and they'll expect their money back. And they'll be like, oh,
Get to the charity shop. It's something you talked about. Well, I think I introduced you talking about when you were a teenager, you were really into fashion and all of that. I think there's something interesting there about, I think it's one thing for adults, you know, deciding to step off this kind of wheel of having to look a certain way, but I think it can be different perhaps for kids and for teenagers with peer pressure and all of that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts on that around how can we help?
I think it all boils down to self-esteem. You know, I probably had really low self-esteem at the time. Like, it's quite a tough thing to talk about, but like children do. You know, you want to, as like a teenager, you want to fit in, you want to find like who you are through your clothes and how you identify yourself. And I think the only way to do that is to like raise them having as much self-esteem as possible. But I don't really know the answer to that. I think there's a certain amount of experimenting that you've got to do, but you know, like you say, with second-hand clothes, you can experiment without like causing pollution, without causing all this terrible stuff in the world. There is ways to do it that are a little bit more ethical, that you can still. I read a book by this guy called Colin Bevan. So he tried to do a zero waste lifestyle, so totally zero waste. So he had like no electricity except for he'd got this one little solar panel that he tried to use, but it was hopeless in the winter. He was living in New York as well, and he has a young daughter as well, and she really got into it. You know, I think that like children are sponges. You know, if you live your life a certain way, like children will cotton on, and what they did, it was less about you're not allowed anything. On our birthday, you know, she could go to a charity shop and pick out anything that she wanted. So it's not like saying, you know, like shopping's evil and you're not allowed to go out shopping. it's just trying to teach them the most mindful way to do it, and saying, you know, it's okay to experiment, because it would be weird if we all still dressed the way we did as teenagers, you know, have that time of our lives for a purpose, you know.
I do think that has an extreme as well, isn't it? So there's the conscious parents who's about wanting to raise their children to be more mindful about what's being purchased, and then there's a group of friends that I have that actually could be said that they live in another extension of their life through their children by what they're purchasing for the children, so that they look good in the playground or whatever. So it's like they have that in their life, but then they're also portraying that on their children's lives as well, which I find fascinating and scary.
The problem is that people do it with the best intentions. You know, like, people want the best for their kids. They don't buy them stuff because, like, they want anything bad for them. You know, they do it because, I mean, some kids are brutal. Like, it's hard being a teenager. You know, you do struggle with, like, bullying and things like that. And it's a tough time. I think that, you know, like, the problem is that when you're just, like, buying your kids stuff all the time, like, that's what they think love is. Like, that's what they think they need to be to the world. Like, they need to have nice things, otherwise people aren't going to like them. Like, that's not something you want to be teaching your kids. Like, you want to be teaching them that it's important to be smart and funny and kind, and that what they wear doesn't really matter. You know, I think that what you focus on is what they're going to focus on as well. So just try not to focus on that stuff as much. You know, it's important, and it's something that they're going to experiment with anyway. But I think, like, you can probably introduce it to them in a little bit more of a healthy way.
Love people and use things.
Because the opposite
never works. I love ending on that. Let's give her another third round of applause in public.
Okay, big head, man.
Thanks very much for doing it.
Oh, thank you everyone for coming as
Check
well.
out the Mindfulness podcast if you haven't already. Go back into the back catalogue as well, especially the really early, cringy.
Oh God!
Go do a deep dive.
When I'm 80, I'm going to be able to listen to them, but I can't now.
Can people still go back to the earliest ones, or have you done like a?
I think we might have deleted like the first couple.
Server issues.
They weren't very good.